As Voltaire takes this time to walk the streets of Venice, the constant sound of rippling water and the occasional sounds of people, women laughing from half-open doorways, men who shout at the top of their lungs, and that singularly unique Italian accent possessed by everyone. A rich sound, unique to your ears, having heard very little of it in France. It was occasional. Makes you think back to the fairs before everything got so complicated. Nevertheless, you proceed through the streets of Venice. A faint, salty smell clinging to the air, with a light aroma of fish, as well as sweet fruits and flowers. Above many of the veranda, you can see small flowers held on displays or growing in vines that remind you of the vineyards back home. What goes through Voltaire's mind?
He is simply taking in the beauty and the scents, the aromas, the feelings that Venice gives as he walks through the streets, head held up high, a gentle smile on his face, as some of these scents and sounds seem to remind him of what home was like. He is simply charmed by this city's beauty, its city's life.
And so you round the following corner, passing by several of the marketplaces, admiring those beautiful men and attractive women. The verses of old poetry and comedias of Italy going through your mind. Some time away from the deliberations. Perception and alertness. You stride on, mesmerized, taken by the passions of your nature as you carry on. Striding with an emboldened confidence as though you strut upon the stage, feeling the candlelight illuminating you under the various makeups and adornments. You quote some of the lines of Richard the Lionheart under your breath as you press your hand on your sword before you look up, staring outward into the streets of Venice. And it is then before you that you see a crusader, dressed in bloody rags, his eyes darting madly about until they focus on you. It takes you an instant, as you were so enraptured in your passions, that you could hardly feel, but now it is emanating from him the power of true faith. And without saying a word, the crusader sees you, but does nothing except whisper, "Forgive me." It is then from behind him you can see the rising bounce of shadows and torches. A furious sound of voices, a cacophony of drowning sound of anger. Overwhelming, the smell of blood is now the stench of burning pitch as a mob begins to close behind the man. Kill him! Kill him! The mad one! They point to the Crusader. The enraged mass is to attack him.
Walter watches as the man looks to him, and he finally gets that feeling of true faith. It surprises him for a moment, while also seeing he's covered in blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of makes him take a small step back, but only 1 foot back. And then he notices the mob behind him starting to make their presence known as they shout towards him. Voltaire then looks to the man and draws his sword.
You intend to defend this Crusader?
Yes.
Drawing your sword as you stalk forward, the mob makes no attempts to stop. You can hear the mass of hurried feet as improvised weapons are raised. Knives, cleavers, clubs, axes. Many of them bear torches as they rush the Crusader's back. Staring at you, he makes no move to defend himself.
Voltaire guards the Crusader, almost stomping his foot as he yells with power and with presence. Halt! He holds himself high as he looks towards the oncoming mob, almost unflinching.
Moving to the aid of the Crusader, you cut them off from their path, standing firmly and splaying out your sword. You command them to freeze, and the magnetic ripple of your force of personality pervades over the mortal minds of the men. They are struck by you, standing with the figure of a king and the finery of a noble, with the bearing of a god. They stare upon you in a fashion which you are familiar from your time on the stage. Their eyes enraptured, their ears prone, straining to hear your words.
You will tell me, why do you raise your weapons to a Crusader of God?
Go ahead and roll really quickly your courage. Because being so close to this Crusader, the aura of faith nearly burns you to step away. The emanations of the aura of faith of the man who now stares at you, his eyes widened with a mix of emotions you cannot readily identify by the flicker of the firelight. And yet, despite the burn of Christendom which emanate from him, and the blood which drench him, you refuse to look or back away as you turn back to the mob as they point, crying out, "He has killed men this evening! Murdered!"
Voltaire remembers the blood on the Crusader. Remembers how panicked he looked, but continues to face the mob with courage, continue to stare them down. This man here is a man of God. He is brought here by his strength in faith and is want to do right by him. And yet,
Mio signore, è un assassino. Commette il peccato di assassini. My lord, this man is a murderer. He commits the sin of murder.
that does not give you the right to punish him. Only by those in power and by church and only by God may they judge him for his actions.
Charisma and expression. The men shift, yet drawn by your words, they listen. You can see as their eyes swift over each other and brought back to you by your preternatural call. You sway the crowd as some lower their weapons. Others cross themselves and more still look on, dubious. Gesturing out towards you, one of the men cries, "There is legitimacy in what he says. We are not judges sanctioned by God to do this. Should we erase a sinner by committing sin upon our own soul?" Dropping torches and more weapons, the men hang their heads in shame. Meanwhile, roll courage. You do take a couple of steps back, but no more. The aura of faith which emanates from the man is vaguely mirrored in that of the crowd, of the religious mania which has consumed Venice. Church bells ring in the distance for that of dead bodies, no doubt rendered so by this man's slaying hand. The crusader, dropping to his knees before you, rests the tip of his sword at the ground as he bows his head. Uttering prayer, you feel an inclination to flee. And yet, you hold yourself at the honor this genuine man of virtuousness of God displays to you. You must disperse this crowd and get away from here. The beast becomes incensed by it.
You will see to it that this holy man is taken into the proper authorities to be judged by them. He will not be harmed in your care. Do I make myself clear?
As the crowd begins to rise their heads, staring at you with a burning certainty, the knight raises his head to look up at you. "I promise on my faith that I will in the future be faithful to the Lord, never to cause him harm, and will observe my homage to him completely against all persons. I will develop my life for the greater good. And I swear this oath in fealty to you." He rests his head against the crossguard of his sword. The crowd seems uncertain. And from the look in this man's eyes, he does not merely see you as a man. He seems aware of you being a monster.
Voltaire turns a little to face the Crusader on his knees as he looks down at him. Stand.
Standing, he rests his sword still in the ground. He looks at you with such a burning insincerity in his eyes. No, not insincerity. What burns there is uncertainty, a mixture of confusion, fear, and zealotry that knows only mania, but sees something inspired in you, as you have seen many a times in the faces of those young men and children that looked upon you performing on the stage, just as you had done before to your mentor who inspired you.
You need not promise anything to me. All you need to promise is to do right by your actions and by God. You will pay for your consequences and you will make up for them.
Standing, the leader of the mob speaks out to the Crusader. Servirà il Signore per I tuoi peccati, finché non il ritirari ripagati. You will serve the Lord for your sins until he deem them repaid. The Crusader still stands before you, blood streaking down his face as tears wet his cheeks, and dripping from his rags as his sword dangles by his side. What goes through the mind of Voltaire? How does he react to this man of pious mania, swearing such an oath to him, in spite of Voltaire having joined this all for glory?
It surprised him a little. It was it was a mixed feelings of emotions. Truly unsure of how to really feel about it himself, but weirdly, it felt kind of good, almost. To protect this man from, no doubt, a fate condemned to death, and in return to have them swear to him. It was all strange, dealing with a lot of emotions at the time from two sides of real faith. He'll have to think on it more. For now, he has to finish this whole ordeal. Go with them, Crusader. Atone for your actions.
The mob seems confused. They stare with shifting feet, yet such a certainty inspired in their eyes. Such a dazzling wonderment in which they stare upon you. As every action and every word which comes from you seems to emanate a phantom authority. The Crusader, however, stares. Forgive me. And as he turns to face the mob, what thoughts go through your eyes? as he begins to walk away towards them, the still halo of faith emanating from him, causing the discomfort of your beast.
In his eyes is a look of certainty, of authority.
Roll your aspects as he walks in the direction of the crowd. You get this haunted image of a man who walks through a field of corpses. Fires burn around him in nights to come. And blood remains fresh upon his blade. Until that halo of faith is extinguished into unceasing darkness.
As he sees this, he still remains steady. Slowly sheathing his blade as the Crusader moves closer and closer to the once violent crowd, watching all of them closely.
The crowd stare back at you, bowing in acquiescence to your demands and authority. Some of the men putting hands on the Crusader, gripping him by the arms, and others taking from him the sword, as meekly he obeys and is carried away by them.
Walter, in return, gives a kind, gentle nod to them. Putting away his sword fully and standing tall once more as they take him away.
Perception, alertness. You catch a faint shadow as you turn back the way you came. A figure which lurked on the edge of sight, returning to the darkness. You are not alone in observing this affair. End of scene.